Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Squared Circle Maniacs Pro Wrestling Podcast, right here on the YouTubes. My name is Johnny Bottles. To my left is Dr. Don Wayne, the neckbeard psychologist. You know him, you love him, you hate him from Twitter. And down below, we have a special guest tonight. Today, our guest is a man who's a member of an elite club. He and Jerry Lynn and Christopher Daniels are the only wrestlers in history to have competed for the WWF, WCW, ECW, TNA, or Impact, whatever you want to call it nowadays, Ring of Honor, and All Elite Wrestling. A man who was trained by Canada's greatest athlete, the immortal Iron Mike Sharp. A man who wrestled the greats of the wrestling business, from Taz to the Sandman. He went under many names: Tempest, Devon Storm, Judas, Salem, the Timeless One, but you know him as Crowbar.
Thank you, guys. I love the vibe already. This is very relaxed, very cool. I like it. I like this podcast already.
Our podcast is just a couple of guys that sit around and talk about wrestling. No more if we were sitting at a bar, having a couple seltzers, having a couple of beers. That's what we do. So, go ahead, Don.
I love it.
I want to thank Mike Digital for helping set this up. I know he's been probably on your case for a while now about coming on the show. He's been setting up, on give him a shout out. And he said, look, just keep at him. I'm telling you, he's going to have a good time. He's going to like it. You're his favorite wrestler. He's let me know it a million times over the past year. Thank you again. As a Keene University alum, we appreciate you coming on here.
Yes. Wow, you go to Keene too? You went to Keene too. Wow, awesome.
I did my research. We try to make sure when we do these shows, we want to make sure a guest knows they're a guest and knows they're special. Your career has spawned over 3 decades, while at the same time you were continued to go to college. And I read about your bio and I did some information, looked it up. You were a junior training to become a professional wrestler in high school. Is that correct? And your parents made a deal with you that you better stay in school.
Wow. You know this. So had very super overprotective parents. I'm going to cut out because I've covered it ad nauseum in many, many podcasts, but always wanted to be a pro wrestler, always loved it. Wasn't quite sure how to go about it. I was reading the Mark mags when I was a kid in high school. We had the After mags, we had PW Insider, The Wrestler, you name it. There was all kinds. And the only wrestling school that they really showed us was Larry Sharp's in Paulsboro, New Jersey, which is probably 2 hours south or more, which is probably a little bit too much. And somehow I'm giving you guys the Cliff Notes. My sister's former husband's brother, so my brother-in-law's brother, somehow knew a guy that was planning on opening up a school with Iron Mike Sharp in a year and a half from the date that he saw him. And this was at the peak of the time when I was really interested in becoming a pro wrestler. And I had no idea how to do it. I knew Paulsboro, New Jersey was a little bit out of the question, a little bit not realistic. And this guy, my brother-in-law's brother, comes in contact with some guy, Tom Rumsby, that's opening up with Iron Mike Sharp in Bricktown, New Jersey, about an hour 15, hour 20 south of me, much more realistic, especially being a full-time student. And when I'm looking for pro wrestling but have no idea how to become a pro wrestler, pro wrestling finds me.
Oh, okay. So you're driving there on the weekends. Is that how it was going? You'd go to your school then, or?
During the week, actually. My parents would drive me down. Before I got my license, I would go down during the week. They're open Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I was his first student. It was me, Mike Sharp, and Tom Rumsby Jr., known as Jumpin' Jack Flash, who was my first match in Mike Sharp's wrestling school. Great guy. We're friends on Facebook. It's awesome to connect with him. And my parents drove me down initially, and then this is crazy. I had a substitute in my shop class in high school, Rocco Mazza, who went on and big wrestling fan that I actually did my work during substitute time, and I spoke with this guy, huge wrestling fan. He was very interested in the fact that I found a wrestling school. We became friends. We're still friends to this day, and Rocco would drive me and him down 3 days a week down to Bricktown, New Jersey, and he was my first manager for years and years and years. He's filled in here and there as recently as last year to manage me again as the master. And this guy really helped me out so much with rides down, and he would reach out to local news and the sheets and stuff. And I always say this, had it not been for Rocco Mazza, a.k.a. the master, there would have never been a Devon Storm. There would have never been a Crowbar. And I freaking love this guy to this day, and I owe him immensely. How's that?
That's pretty
great.
amazing. The fact that you're doing this during the week, driving that far, getting a ride anyway, anyhow, I got to be a wrestler. And you had
getting home,
Mike Sharp. I mean, just
getting home at 2:30 in the morning, going to bed, waking up for school, being in high school, drinking way too much coffee than I should be drinking at that age, at that juncture of my life. And just getting it, that's how bad I wanted to do it. And that drive continued. Like, I pursued pro wrestling all through Kane College, now Kane University, all through UMDNJ physical therapy school. And that was long before the days of online classes. You had to go to class.
Right.
So I did my studies during the week, grinded. I did wrestling on the weekends, and pretty much had no social life besides that. But it was cool because I genuinely love physical therapy to this day. It's my trade, and I love wrestling. So I would never take any of that back.
Raising
nowadays,
the bar rehabilitation, correct? That's the name of your facility.
Raising the Bar Rehabilitation and Fitness in East Rutherford, New Jersey.
Yes, sir. Congratulations on that. That's a hell of a thing to accomplish. You might be one of the most accomplished part-time wrestlers I'll ever meet in my life. It's absolutely amazing. But the most amazing part to me is when you started training under Iron Mike Sharp. When you walked in there, did you have to get him out of the shower to come back out there and train you guys?
No, it's the craziest thing. Like, I use the term a lot, point of reference. When I go to work out now, I really don't have the opportunity to go to a wrestling school all that often. It's very, very rare. But when I go, I wear gym shorts or sweats. I throw on my knee pads, wrestling shoes. I haven't worn boots in probably 30 years of my 33 and a half year career. I've always worn sneakers underneath my kick pads. You can actually see that as a Crowbar. I'm wearing 80s Guido Reeboks. Go look. But
why would you do that? Why would you not wear wrestling boots, just out of curiosity? Because I see a lot of guys do that.
I wore boots. I didn't care for them too much. And then I adopted the kick pads. And I realized that when I wore the kick pads, you really only saw the front end of the shoe, the boot. So the 80s/90s Guido Reeboks, you really saw just the front. It was a black leather with a black sole, so it looked like a boot. And it was way less expensive than proper wrestling boots, way more comfortable, and it just worked for me. How's that?
That sounds good.
I love it already, man. I only asked the Iron Mike because of all the stories about the shower. He's always in the shower from what everybody says. They closed the man in a building.
So I want to answer your question. So back to point of reference. If I go to work out now, shorts, maybe sweats, tank top, I put my elbow pads on. I encourage all the young guys. I never wore elbow pads because it made my arms look skinnier. Later on in my career, I guarantee you I'm wearing elbow pads. Just wear them. Because you always hit, no matter if you hit a perfect bump or not, you're going to hit your elbow. I have all kinds of little crackly things in there and occasional bursitis. Nothing serious, but young guys, wear your elbow pads. Don't be stupid. How's that?
This has been a public service message from Crowbar.
Public service, point of reference. So that's what I wear now if I go to work out as a professional wrestler, 33 and a half years in professional wrestling. I show up at Iron Mike Sharp School. Me and all the other new students show up at Iron Mike Sharp School. And Mike Sharp dressed to train us like he was going to wrestle at the Garden. Black trunks, black boots, oiled up. And very often I'd say, don't laugh, I'd say 75 to 80% of the time he trained us with the armband on.
Get out of here. That's amazing.
Nope. No bullshit.
God, that's awesome, man. So,
and looking back, it's like, wow, that happened.
So you talked a little bit about the dings you've got. You've been doing this now for over 30 years. How is your health overall? You hear about a lot of these guys that have been doing this forever. They're beat to hell. They've got to have all these surgeries. They wind up broken. You seem to be doing very well. Your Twitter feed is great. I know I want to talk a little bit about AEW ripping your ass off later, but you seem to be doing very well.
A huge part of it is I see it in my physical therapy business, especially in the wrestling business. There's a lot of guys that are very proficient at being weightlifters, getting in shape, exercising, and often professional wrestlers don't seek medical help when they need it. They either think they could treat it themselves, or many of the guys, unfortunately, on the independents are uninsured. So they try to treat things or they let it go as far as they can until something gets bad enough where they seek out a medical advice. I try to help my wrestling brothers out the best that I can, but I can't help everybody out. I've done numerous phone consults with guys in the bottom of the card, guys in the middle of the card, guys in the top of the card in both major companies. I have to maintain confidentiality because it is the part of my job. And wrestlers often wait until things get really bad until they address it. Given my background, I've been able to manage small injuries and prevent them from becoming larger injuries. I've been able to wrestle with an injury, knowing what kind of moves, what kind of spots, whatever you want to call it, to avoid, and still have the people not be any of the wiser that I'm protecting that thing because of my background. And that's one of the major things that has enabled me to keep going, my phrase, at the level that I do in
seen that
2024. Outside of that, a huge part of it was when WCW was sold to WWE. There was a logjam of talent going into WWE. I had several dark matches. I'm not some delusional guy that says, "Oh, I had a great pop and I got over." I had a great pop in Philadelphia with John Cena. I posted it. I had a great pop in Madison Square Garden when I wrestled there, and with Rick Fuller in the Hartford Civic Center. But there were too many guys to have a job there. TNA didn't work out for me because they wanted me to move to Nashville. And at that time, I had bought a house. I had gotten married. I had a great job as an administrator for Health South, a huge physical therapy corporation.
Yes.
And at that time, I saw that there was this logjam of talent, very few places to go. And it enabled me, having this other career, to step back. And at that time, there were guys on the independents working Friday, working Saturday, working Sunday, grinding, beating the hell out of their body, trying to get noticed. I knew that there was not an open door at that time. There's only so many spots. I stepped back. I took local shows. I took less shows here and there, enough to stay in the wrestling business, but I focused my time and energy towards becoming a better physical therapist, eventually opening up a practice, being a dad. I became a dad during that time, which was awesome. And all these years later, because of that little pseudo hiatus, I still wrestle, just not as much. I saved my body a whole lot of wear and tear.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of it too.
You said you became a dad. Let me ask you this question. Your kids are teenagers now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yep. 15 and 16.
Are they familiar? They got to be familiar with, hey, my dad's Crowbar from WCW, WWF, and ECW. Do they say that to people? Have they seen your body of work? And do they go to your matches nowadays?
They go to our matches. I work with my wife. I've met my wife after WCW. She was an independent wrestler. She's not that on Wikipedia is wrong. She trained with. Wikipedia is wrong. She was not a ring announcer.
I was gonna ask you about that.
Not horseshit. It's total horseshit. I just don't have the energy to correct it, so I just let people believe she was a ring announcer. For whatever reason, after the fall of WCW, I went down to Wilmington, Delaware, to the ECWA, one of the places where I cut my teeth. Jim Kettner, I love that human being, and I just went down there to visit. I really have no idea why. In hindsight, now I know why. I don't want to preach. I think God steers you in the direction you need to go in. I went down there to hang out, and I met my wife.
Funny things work out that way, pal. Everything happens for a reason.
I was really good friends with Simon Diamond, Pat Kenny, and at that time, he was in a relationship with Dawn Marie. And Dawn Marie was trying to become a stronger in-ring performer. She saw up with WWE that the divas were doing more and more in-ring. I'm just giving you the cliff notes. Yada, yada, yada. They saw my wife at a wrestling school. My wife became her practice partner, her independent wrestling match partner, so she could become better. And the rest is history. This August, it'll be 20 years.
That's an accomplishment.
We are a successful wrestling couple. Go figure that one out.
Hey, it's rare, but congratulations. You mentioned something that I really want to talk about. It was the Indies. It was the Indies discussion. So you start off in the 90s, and now you're still wrestling today. Not as much. Obviously, you've got your own life. And this is what's amazing about your career. You can do what the hell you want, when the hell you want to do it, and people still want to have you on their card.
I can take off at weeks or months at a time, show up on a whim, and steal the show every damn time. How's that?
I don't doubt it. I've seen your highlights coming off the cage. I was like, oh, shit, is he? Yes, he's really going to do it. All right, that was cool. And
That's
looks
a 50-year-old
Go ahead, I'm
man.
sorry.
No, it's fine. What were the indies like then versus now, the 90s versus now? Because in the 90s, I don't remember a lot of the indie shows. We didn't have them here locally. I'm in Central Virginia. Now it seems like we've got a show somewhere every other day. It seems there's something going on. There's something every other weekend. We've got another indie show.
There were a lot of shows in the 90s. Overall, I believe they drew better. And I think part of it was because at that time you had WWE, you had WCW, and that they offered more mainstream wrestling. You saw more basic stuff. I don't want to say basic, but it was on the independence that you saw that Japanese / extreme / lucha style start to trickle in. And those guys were more exclusive to the independents than they were on TV. So for that rabid fan audience that collected tapes, that followed the magazines, that were into the Ligers, were into the violent stuff over in Japan, that followed the Lucha Libre, the places where they could see a lot of these guys were on independent shows. Where now that style has graduated and evolved to being a part of the mainstream wrestling product.
I've got a question for you.
There it is. I knew it was coming.
30 years in this business, you've seen everybody come and go, all types of trends in wrestling, all types of niche matches that take place that are trendy at the time. Where do you see the wrestling business going 10 years from now? Is it going to be more like the hardcore stuff, more high-flying stunts, or is it going to move back gradually to like a Mid-South mat-based kind of thing? You know what I'm saying?
I really don't know. In the 90s, I couldn't have predicted that the cruiser / lucha / extreme stuff would go mainstream. Really? No one saw that coming. and a lot of people saw that was the thing that really made the indies special. It made the indies niche, and it gave that audience something to watch. No one saw the Attitude Era coming, where you would start to see that more adult, that more extreme stuff go on to WWE. You saw some of it in WCW as well. So where it goes, I'm really not sure. They're doing a lot of stuff now between both of the companies, AEW, WWE. It's everything from A to Z. You see great ladies wrestling. You see great cruiser action. You see a lot of stunts. Some of them unsafe, but you see a lot of stunts.
I got some. Yes.
Go ahead.
You see guys that are larger than life. You see great promos. So the top companies are offering all of the things that at one time made the independents special. So I'm really not sure where it goes.
You said in a recent interview in your local paper, I want to say, wrestling moves today look cool, but they aren't safe. What the hell has happened with these kids? Is it a lack of a veteran influence, or what is it? Because it used to be you had a wrestling match to tell a great story. Now you have a great wrestling match to do 400 moves that no one gives a shit about, and nobody sells for more than 5 seconds. And as a fan, and this is just my take, because Crowbar, I'm not a wrestler. I never wanted to get my fat ass in the ring, and I never do. But I want you guys to tell the story and make me believe. I can't believe a lot of what I'm seeing today on a lot of these shows. And it drives me nuts as a fan that part of the show has stopped. And like you said, it looks dangerous and stupid, in my opinion, as a fan.
Sure. When I was younger, I did a lot of things that I look back now was friggin' stupid. I could probably say there's probably 2 or 3 times I should have died. Really, God was with me. I made a lot of stupid decision in an attempt to get over.
Give us an example.
When I was working with The Wall, if you go back, I still call it the greatest choke slam ever done in the history of professional wrestling. You can find it on my timeline. He throttles me on the side of the ring, and we worked through this before the match. We had a landing platform, a bunch of boxes. I had known Jerry Toot the Wall my entire career. He started out at Iron Mike Sharp's as well. Trusted him, strong as an ox.
For people who don't know, this is from WCW. It is run in WCW, and Jerry the Wall
was on Thunder.
It was on Thunder, and Jerry was destined to be the next big thing for the big men in professional wrestling at that time. He was lauded heavily and all the dirt sheets. So go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to throw a little frame of reference up for everybody.
And many people compare this bump to the Undertaker with Shane McMahon, where Shane was on the top turnbuckle and the Undertaker jumped off. Shane jumped off the top turnbuckle through the ringside table. And that's all well and good. That looked impressive. It was probably a hell of a lot safer than what I did. Jerry and I, he grabbed me by the throat, grabbed me by the pants, and we both went down and up, and we jumped at least 6 feet out from the ring apron through the announce table. We landed it perfectly. We followed that up with a bump at Uncensored, I believe it was. It was a match between The Wall and Bam Bam Bigelow, where we got involved, and he chokeslammed me off of the side of the Tron through the stage, and it was very high. It was very intimidating, but it was a flat bump, and it was very, very safe. Looking back, I would still do that bump. The one from the apron to the announce table, although we nailed it perfectly, I probably would not do that one. And then we were going to up the ante at a later show. They were going to stack 3 tables up, and he was going to choke slam me off of the mezzanine, like the first landing at an arena, like where, like you get an entrance from the floor.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the first level. So maybe whatever it was, and we were practicing it, and they prepared a bunch of boxes to break my fall, and he had me by the throat, and he kind of pushed me back, and I kind of pushed back too much off the rail, and I went backwards, and I guess I pushed back too much. I hit the last row of boxes enough to hit it and rotate to my feet, Had I been an inch or two further, I would have just cracked my head open like a coconut off of the arena floor. Yeah, that happened.
God,
For a sense of perspective for everybody watching this,
and that was my wake.
How high was that wise?
I'd say anywhere between 16 to 20 feet.
Okay.
Picture an arena wherever you're at, and they have the entrances from the back for like hockey, and it was the first railing above that entrance.
Yeah.
So kind of the height that like Sting jumped off of like the crowd thing.
Right. Gotcha.
If that makes sense. So it was high up, backwards, and had I missed that last row of boxes, I would have hit the back of my head on the arena floor, and we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. Right. So,
well, thank God we are.
But I had the energy was there, the enthusiasm was there, the want to make my mark, the want to get over was there. So when guys say you don't understand or you're a curmudgeon old guy, I get it 1,000,000%. I do get it 1,000,000% because I was there.
Right. I mean, I'm the guy that's done it. I almost killed myself. I know what the hell I'm talking about. Just take a little bit of advice. You could still do it, but maybe not do it from that height. Maybe do a little bit different way. Here's how I would do it in retrospect.
You really need to watch the stunts before they happen. I often go to the Dante Martin spot where they did Canadian Destroyer through the two tables. Love all those performers. Super, super exciting. Like watching them. But just by the setup, the Canadian Destroyer has a rotation component to it. It's not a straight drop. You can look them up on YouTube, wherever. I've done dives off the top of a cage to a floor with Sabu, off the top of a Tron through two tables, and they are straight drops where I'm able to lay out and put my weight through the middle of the table without any kind of outward force. It's a straight drop. There's still inherent risk, but it's much, much safer. Canadian Destroyer, you have rotation. So no matter how you hit that top table, you're not going through both and it's going to tip. It is going to tip. It's just physics. No matter how, there was no perfect way to hit that move at all, no matter how they set the table up. No perfect way. So from the get-go, that move was a loser. And it hurt a guy, a great performer, a guy that I'm a huge fan of, and it put him out of action for a long, long time. Wrestlers need to have some kind of sense of physics, or they need somebody there to steer them in safety, and it's not being done.
Do you still talk to Jerry Lynn, any of those guys from your ECW run from back in the day in your travels? Jerry Lynn's an agent in AEW. And I'm sure you talked to some people who work there, and you've actually appeared there. So do you get any kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, vibe that the young guys won't listen to the older guys who are the agents who have done it before? Tully Blanchard is famous for having a shoot interview where he said, no one came up to me to ask me anything. No one asked me anything at all. I tried to help a few guys out, and they just walked away. Yeah, that's a good talking to you. And they walked away from me. So have you heard anything along those lines?
I saw Jerry Lynn at the ECW Arena show during the Mania weekend. It was great to see him. I was preparing for my match with Danny Doring, my brother. I love that guy.
Danny Doring. Oh, my God. Danny Doring.
And we're like family. He's so great.
I mean, not Crowbar. Danny Doring and
Roadkill.
Roadkill.
Yes. We're all like family. They're all Jersey guys. Actually, I'm lying. Roadkill is a New York guy, but we all get together very often. But I saw Jerry Lynn, one of the nicest guys on the planet. I didn't talk any kind of AEW business with him.
Talk shop.
Yeah, I didn't talk shop. It was just, hey, how are you doing? And I was also preparing for my match as well. So there's just no time to talk shop. And even if there was, I probably wouldn't have brought anything up anyway. It's just not my spot. You know what I mean? It's not my place.
Right.
So I guess my question, you've had a long career now, like we've talked about. What was your favorite run? Was it WCW? Was that when you were just really feeling it? Because I know you had Russo was a big fan of yours. I know he liked what you did. He put you with Flair to protect Flair. You guys, I mean, at that point in time, Crowbar, there's no bullshit about it. You're in main events with Kevin Nash and Hall. Like, you're there, man. Did it ever hit you at any moment at that point in time? Like, oh shit, I really made it. Like, I'm here. Even if I'm not going to be here for 20 years, I'm here now. Enjoy the moment.
If you would have told 10, 11-year-old Chris Ford that he would actually go to WCW and be with those guys, I would have said you're crazy. I've been blessed and lucky enough to do way more than I ever expected, way more than I deserve. Super grateful. Just walking into the ropes, the ring at Iron Mike Sharp's school was incredible. A year before I joined Mike Sharp's school, I saw an independent show in my hometown at Fairleigh Dickinson University, which is now Felician University. And it was a packed house. And I said to myself, I would be thrilled if this is what I do, just doing this here and there, just being able to do independent wrestling. So going to WCW, having all the experiences that I had there is way more than I ever expected. Always thankful for that. Post WCW, getting to wrestle a dark match at Madison Square Garden was incredible. Rewind it for a second. Doing a pay-per-view match for Starrcade, which was WCW's
I was going to ask you about that.
Which was WCW's version of WrestleMania against Terry Funk, a guy who I idolize, a huge Terry Funk fan, for a title. Again, if you would have told teenage me that was ever going to happen, I would have thought you were crazy. Yet, modern day wrestling, all that stuff is great for so many reasons. Yet what I'm doing now, I often work with my wife as a valet. I work with a good buddy of mine, Adam Kerr, as Percival, who plays this bodyguard / tag team partner role with me. And the fact that I can choose the dates I do, I could ask for the people I want to work, and there's absolutely zero pressure whatsoever, is really, really cool in a totally different way. So it's both awesome, both incredible in very different ways, if that makes sense.
Got to ask you this question.
Sure.
You're a man who's got his own business.
Okay.
Got a beautiful family.
I hear this all the time. Okay, God. Why? Why?
Exactly. Why are you doing this to yourself?
Why? Or I get, what the fuck is wrong with you? That's what I get all the time. When my mother was alive, you got a good business, you got the kids. Why are you doing this wrestling bullshit still? I'm
gonna be 65 next month. When I get up in the morning, I got crack and snap, and I sound like a bowl of Rice Krispies before I get moving. You're 50 years old, 32 years in this business. You got a lucrative business in Jersey, beautiful family. How's your health? I mean, you're bagging yourself up on these dates, aren't you? I mean, or maybe you're not. I don't know. How's your health going right now? And
first of
why
all,
you still do it?
I try to wrestle. I keep my cardio up. I keep my body in shape. I try to wrestle at a fast pace, at a good pace. I try to do moves that look cool, that look violent, that look dangerous, that look extreme, but are really, really safe without pulling the curtain back too much. There's always inherent risk that goes with wrestling, and I accept that risk. But when you look at my moveset, what I do, what I agree to do with other people, I try to minimize my risk while giving the people the best effing show that I could possibly give them. Why do I do it? There is no good reason. Do I need, and I'm not being snarky at all, believe me. Do I need it? Absolutely not. I I do it because I effing love pro wrestling. That's it. That's as simple as the answer is. That's all. That's your answer.
I love it.
I see the clips of you on your Twitter feed and on YouTube, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm going full Jim Ross. By God, that man's got a family. I'm thinking, good Lord.
And I do.
Almighty. Yes. I get hurt wrestling on a Hot Pocket out of its sleeve from the microwave. And here you are wrestling all kinds of young talent and all that, jumping off a cage.
But I'll say, I do one move off the top of the cage. I do a leg drop. I think it looks friggin' awesome. The way that I set it up, where I place my opponent, where I put the back of the table so that the back of the table doesn't shoot up and hit me in the back of the head, where I land makes it super, super safe. I did a cage match last year that was followed up by the same promoter after great accolades with another cage match. And I told my opponent, you have to go up. If you want to do something off the top of the cage, that's fine. But I have one move off the cage that I do, and that's it. Will I ever do the dive to the floor through two tables, which is also extremely safe if done right? Maybe for the right person, but I basically do one move off the top of the cage. I do it safely. It's well thought out. It's not done haphazardly. It's not done on a whim. It's not done without thinking about it. It's thoroughly explained to my opponent. It's thoroughly explained to the referee. I tell the promoter the exact kind of table that I need, the exact length of the table that I need, and I say, if you can't do this, I'm not doing it.
Hang on a second.
I love everything you're saying. I love everything.
And these table spots, or you're saying they're specific?
And there's always risk, but I try to decrease that risk the best that I can.
And it sounds like you're doing a great job. You're still doing well, but you said something I want to ask you about. You were a big fan of Terry Funk, and I've researched this and found it out.
Do the impression, Don. Do the impression.
I'm not doing the impression.
Do the impression, Don.
I'll do it.
A great Terry Funk.
No, I do one impression when he does. Your mother's a whore. That's the one that I know. That's the one. You know something, Crowbar? We're going to have this match, and I just want you to know something. Here's my question. When you meet him and you're going to have this match, it's now peer-to-peer, right? You're no longer the fan. There's got to be some fan left in you to see this guy, but how does that feel?
No. I'm still totally the fan. It's not peer-to-peer. I'm still totally the fan. I'm being put in a program with Terry Funk. I get my first live broadcast interview going back and forth. I'm on stage with Daphne. He's in the ring. We're live doing an interview. This is spoken about in other podcasts that I've done. I have grown up as a fat, weird kid on the spectrum with the worst speech impediment imaginable, which most people sometimes can pick up, sometimes they can't. I have very bad ADD. When I focus, I can control it. So the longer this interview goes, you might see my speech decline a little bit because I just start to fuzz out. But I have the opportunity, first time in my career, to do a live promo, microphone to microphone with Terry Funk. I've never done this before. I know my history of being a stutterer, a very bad, and I have to nail it. And you can find it out there. I did it. And so that was a very big moment for myself personally, outside of the whole dynamic of being involved with Terry Funk in an angle that would culminate, actually not culminate at Starrcade, because we did one more match at Sin with Terry Funk and Mang. So it was special for so many reasons, and I was never his peer. I was always his biggest fan, and it was an absolute thrill for me to do it, and I still can't believe that I did that. And I'm just telling the truth. I was never this guy's peer. I was a huge fan and grateful and blessed to be in the ring with this guy.
That's amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it, because when I saw it, I was like, this dude got in the ring with his idol and had a match. That blows my mind. That's like I don't know that every kid that watches wrestling, they have a match, right? And they're usually their favorite wrestler. When you were doing this, I'm sure you did the same thing. were you Terry Funk or were you having a match with Terry Funk? Because I think that might be a little bit of a different mindset from what a pro wrestler wants to be, as they see themselves wrestling that guy. Whereas, the kid me wants to see me wrestling as that guy.
A little bit of both. If you look at my style that I had there, I definitely have a very heavy Terry Funk influence. Just even thinking back, it was a totally surreal experience and opportunity. To this day, I still can't believe it happened. It was great. And it's, again, the fact that the newer fans won't understand that Starrcade was WCW's WrestleMania. It was their version of, it was their big show, their big show. And to, again, have a match versus Terry Funk, where I was defending my title against the hardcore legend on their biggest show of the year, is something that I could never have imagined in a million years.
Incredible.
Hats off to you. That's just still an amazing story.
Crowbar, I got to ask you one question. You wrestled in the MEWF, the Mid-Eastern Wrestling Federation, up in the Delmarva area. Now, I saw one of your matches there. You wrestled in a tag team with Mark the Shark Schrader.
Shark Schrader, yes.
Yes.
Oh, I know.
And your experiences in the MEWF, does the Hollywood Playboy Bobby Starr owe you any money?
No, he does. He doesn't owe me any money.
He's a good friend of mine. That's why I asked.
I have not seen him in a long time, but he's always so much fun. It's always a pleasure to see him, but it's been years and years and years. Would be great to see him again. Great guy.
He was on this show. Did an hour and a half with Bobby Starr. Fantastic guy.
Wow.
Crazy ass stories. Just insane.
Oh, of course. Yep.
When you were traveling the road, on the independent circuit, like how does that work? Like, how do you work out the details? When do you know you're going to do it? Who calls who? Like, how can people reach you if they want you to do a show? I know you've got some information listed on your Twitter feed, but I mean, how can people find you?
I'll put it in the show notes. Let us know.
Usually they email. More often than not, they get my number from somebody else in the business, and they'll call on me. I try my best to stay local because there's a lot of shows in the Northeast between New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, stuff like that. It's always nice to stay local when I can. I work a lot for ISPW, Outlaw Wrestling, for Battleground Championship Wrestling out of Philly, which has been a hell of a time, a lot of fun there. But often I am open to leaving New Jersey for matches, but if it's a Friday or a Saturday, the issue is I own a physical therapy facility. If I have to leave, I have to staff it with someone else, and I have to pay their time. And I'll often tell people, thank you so much for thinking of me, but what it would cost to get me there and have it make sense, I know I'm not worth that. And I'll politely decline. And I appreciate them reaching out. I appreciate them asking. If it's a big show somewhere that I really want to be a part of, I do make exceptions. But for the most part, I try to stay relatively locally.
You grew up in East Rutherford, New Jersey. This is something that I was thinking about before we went to this. That was a weird time to be coming up in the wrestling world, right? You had guys coming out of Jersey left and right. You had Bam Bam Bigelow. You had DDP. Did you ever hear or see these guys locally? Did you know about them? Like, how does that work? Because this was a time where it's crazy how many of you guys came out of there at around, a 5 to 8 year span. Everybody's coming out of freaking, East Rutherford out of nowhere.
I knew two people very, very well. They went to my gym, Strong and Shapely Gym, which is still there. At that time, it was a great gym, but a crazy gym. To this day, I describe it, if you've ever watched Star Wars, it is the Mos Eisley Cantina of gyms. Not today, but back then. Every weirdo freak and guys wearing the craziest clothes. guys with thighs on top of their thighs and biceps on top of their biceps, guys screaming and yelling while they're lifting. I mean, it was a total freak show, but it was a great gym. And I started lifting there when I was 13 years old. It was in Rutherford, New Jersey. And I met both Jim Powers and Bill DeMott at that gym.
Wow.
And, you know, it was really cool seeing those guys. I was definitely an over enthusiastic Mark. I would ask him wrestling questions, but at an early age, they told me if you decide to pursue it, this business will never love you as much as you love it, which is true. But they also both instilled in me to this day, and I thank them both. It's not a very secure business. It's not a business you could depend on for yourself or for a family. So if you're going to pursue this, and I had already known this, but they reinforced my belief that you have to have something to fall back on, a secondary career. And they helped just reinforce my belief of that was already there.
Bottles, you had something about an injury question you had for him. I don't want to steal your question, but I thought it was a damn good one. It was, I'll ask it if you don't mind, but what was there ever a time in the, all right.
Why you gotta steal my stuff? What's going on?
Look, pal. Look, if AEW is going to steal his shit, I'm going to jump in here. They're stealing his gimmick. I'm going to steal yours.
We still have to talk about that. But I already asked the injury question. What was his worst injury? And he went into the whole thing with the wall.
But I was going to ask something a little bit more. Was there a point where you were like, I'm screwed up? I'm done. Like this might be it. I'm sorry, but that's like
we're playing ping pong now.
I'm sorry, but was there a point where you really got messed up? You're like, this might be it. I really might have just done myself in.
I'm done. Yeah.
No, but probably the worst injury that I had. I had the hardcore belt, and just prior to Thanksgiving, I forget the exact date, they did a tag match. It was myself and Mike Awesome against Bam Bam and Reno. We did like a hardcore tag match, and we had discussed the spot in the back, discussed the match, and I go to do an Asai moonsault to the floor, and Bam Bam was like, "Yeah, bro, I'll totally catch you, man. Don't worry about it." And you go back and watch it. He watches me go up, and he watches me go down, and I hit the floor. I have no idea what's going on, but
overshot?
No, I just went up for a flip, and no, he just made no attempt to catch me. I don't know what his deal was. It doesn't matter what his deal was. It sucked. So I ended up, I self-diagnosed myself with a torn abdominal muscle, which Mick Foley speaks about it in his book. It's one of the most painful injuries you could have, because you lift up your legs and put your pants on, it kills you. You go up to get out of bed, you pull on that tear, it kills you. Anything you do, it kills you. And at that time, I had the hardcore belt, and I had spoken with management, and I wanted to try to get away from garbage wrestling as a hardcore champion. I wanted to do more of an ECW-esque type of hardcore. I've never been a fan of garbage wrestling. I hate death match wrestling. It's just not something I enjoy watching. I hated how they would bring out the garbage can filled with shit, and they would just whack each other with random objects. I hated it. So
that's the go-to garbage wrestling. Yes.
My intent was to do more of an ECW-esque hardcore wrestling where you combine technical wrestling with a chair here or there. And I call it the Sabu Van Dam, Jerry Lynn-esque style of pro wrestling, where it's technical, but you'll work in a chair or a table or something like that. And that was my intent. And all of a sudden, I tear an abdominal muscle. I have the hardcore belt on me. I don't want to notify management about it, because they find out you're hurt, they're taking it off you, and that was a huge opportunity for me. Right. And I was going to try to manage that injury the best that I can. I was going to show up for work, and I was going to camouflage it the best that I can. So unfortunately, I had to resort to, although I was hurt, I was easily able to do a garbage wrestling style because it didn't require a lot of running, a lot of climbing, a lot of hitting the ropes or anything like that. And it just about healed up in time for my match with Terry Funk.
Oh, thank God.
You
for
go
that.
back and you can find that match. You know, you can find that match. It's outside moonsault to the floor and plop.
I'm looking for that tomorrow. I am looking
do it
for
tonight.
the wall, the moons. I'm looking for the whole thing. If you had to do it all over again,
yes,
what aspects of your wrestling career would you change?
Wow.
Or was the whole thing just a learning experience?
No, what I probably in my WCW time, I was a young, enthusiastic, raring to get over wrestler. I was doing a lot of flips, a lot of moonsaults. I was doing a dive to the floor. I was doing a more extreme style. Although they had blessed me, they had given me a character, Crowbar, that I thought I portrayed very, very well. I think my style may have deterred some of the upper card guys from wanting to work with me. If you go, guys from that time, you know, some of the upper guys like Scott Steiner is not going to want to do that shit. Rick Steiner is not going to want to do that kind of shit. Sting at that time is not going to want to do that shit. So I believe I would have been smarter if I would have not toned my style down, if I would have worked just as hard, but would have adopted a move set similar to what I'm doing today. That looks dangerous, that looks crazy, that looks extreme, but to a seasoned wrestler, a guy that's been around, they could see that it was very, very safe. I was still taking a lot of risks for myself and my opponent, which might have prevented upper card guys from wanting to work with me, in my opinion. Now the style's changed so much now that it's, you know, Sting worked a crazy style in AEW and stuff like that. But at that time, there was still a lot of older, well-established guys that if they weren't agents or bookers, they were in positions of influence where they could say, nah, don't bring this guy up. Nah, I really don't want to work with this guy. Nah, leave this guy working with the cruiserweights. Nah, leave this guy on the middle or upper card. I love that style. I still love working very hard. But my time in WCW, it would have maybe behooved me. I'm going to use behooved me to maybe work just as hard, but do stuff that maybe wasn't so far off the beaten path of the more established guys. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And here's another question that it's unrelated to what I just asked you, but I have it written down. So I got to ask this guy this. What was the worst experience in the wrestling business for you outside of the ring? Not inside, outside of the ring.
I was the most hated guy in the ECW locker room.
Why?
Why the hell was not like you? You seem like a friendly guy.
It got off to a bad start. I had been working.
You didn't do enough drugs.
Well, that's part of it, probably. That's probably a big part of it. Let's say it the way it is. But I had been working for an independent promoter, Dennis Carluzzo, who was a sworn enemy of Paulie. I had gone to WCW for a few nightly shots, and I got a call to wrestle Taz the day of the show at probably 1 or 2 o'clock that day, the day of the show. And I was thrilled to go there. I love the product. It's well done. I love that style. I love the wrestling combined with the extreme. The issue was the Monday before that Saturday, I had got my knee scoped. I got an arthroscopic knee surgery. From a physical therapy aspect, the tear was removed. There was nothing that could go wrong. You know, the tear in the meniscus was cut out, removed. But as from the surgery, the side effect, as for lack of a better word, I had a very swollen and inflamed knee because they were just in there with these two things, and they were poking around doing some stuff. But I wasn't going to miss this show, so I had to find a doctor friend who will remain nameless, and I told him my situation, and I said I really need my knee drained. I have to make this show tonight. So before I could leave for Philly, I had to hunt this guy down. He accommodated me. I had to wait for him to be available. Drained my knee. Then I hopped in the car, got down to Philly, got down there a little late, but I did, in all honesty, receive that call very late. I had no idea that I was going to be booked. I had to take care of my knee. And then when you get there, Taz was super pissed that I had gotten there late. I believe he saw it as a sign of disrespect. I knew that I could wrestle after my knee was drained, but you're not going to tell this new company that you're coming in, you just had surgery, and then you look like damaged goods either. So from night one,
damned if you do, damned if you don't. Yeah.
Right.
So from night one, Taz hated me. And he hated me from that point on. And I believe Chris Ford, did not fit the culture of ECW. I went to school all week. I showed up at the shows. A lot of guys watched the monitor. They watched the matches. I always watched the matches when they were aired. It's not like I wasn't watching them, but I would get backstage and I had to study. I was doing my studying. I was juggling being a full-time student and being an ECW wrestler at that time. The guys would go out after the show. I was not a party guy. I will take credit for it. I was probably the first guy to bring my home video game system on the road. I would hook up. I would hook up either my Sega Genesis or my Nintendo to the hotel TV, and the guys go, "Hey, you want to go out and go do X, Y, and Z?" And I'd say, "No, I'm going to study. I'm going to do this." One night, my game system was kicked across a hotel room because I refused to go out, and I wasn't going to be one of the boys. I'll leave that guy nameless because he's now deceased, and there's no need to talk bad about dead people. But I talk about this with my son and my daughter often. It was a very hard time. Outside of that 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever it was that I got to wrestle, which was golden. It was always gold. The ECW fans, the arena, the environment, the electricity was awesome, but the rest of that time sucked. It was a really tough time for me. God, but it was a time. It made me stronger and it made me better, not as a wrestler, not just as a wrestler, but as a person in life. Because later on in life, tough times come up, and it's just something else you have to deal with. I learned a lot there. It made me a better person, and it really put my love of pro wrestling to the test. Am I just going to walk away and say, F it? No, I stuck it out for almost a year, and I took my lumps. I took the sideways comments, the people saying horse shit about me. I absorbed my school books being thrown out and hidden and having to buy new ones. I absorbed my video game system being kicked across the hotel room.
You're getting me half hot.
No, don't be. But it made me a better person. I see it often with younger kids these days. If there's an issue, they walk away and they just quit. And this tested my mettle. It grew me a thicker skin. And again, I'm so thankful for it because it made me a better, stronger person, not just in wrestling, but in life. So I thank God for the whole experience. How's that?
I'm going to talk to Mike Digital when this is all said and done, because I think he might have just made me, you might just be my new favorite wrestler. I just hearing your story. It's absolutely amazing what you've been through, the adversity you've gone through. You've kept your head on your shoulders. You're not an asshole. You're not above the crowd. You're a down-to-earth guy. You've been here for an hour. I just want to say thank you. We're going to let you get out of here because I know you've got a family. You've got things to do. Grey Goose.
You got a family.
My God.
I got
kids. Got a family.
I just want to thank you personally. This has been a treat. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. You've gone above and beyond on everything that you talked about. You have opened my eyes to, as a fan of the wrestling business. This was a joy, and I thank you for coming on.
Thank you guys so much. I had a great time. Great opportunity to talk to you guys, to talk wrestling, the thing that I love so much, and I will continue to love and continue to do, and just keep on watching. Not being snarky. I'm a down to earth guy, but I can confidently say that there is no 30+ year veteran anywhere on any company, TV or platform capable of performing at the level that I do.
Look at
and and I'm just going to continue to prove that.
What more do you want?
A part-time weekend warrior, and nobody is performing at the level that I do.
When are you going back to TNA?
It's a different thing. It's really an odd dynamic in wrestling, and I reach out here and there just for fun. It would be fun to do this, and it would be fun to do that here and there. Pro wrestling is a really weird culture, a weird world. There's only so many spots. There's only so many spots for wrestlers. There's even less spots for agents or coaches, which I have no interest in being an agent or a coach. I'm not a spectator. I don't spectate well. And I
Uh-oh. Is that me?
Oh, that might be that's Crowbar.
You guys, did I lose you?
Just for a second. Yes.
He froze up for a second.
Okay. So I'm saying there's very few spots for wrestlers, even less spots for coaches. I have no interest whatsoever in being a coach or a agent or anything like that. I wouldn't want to leave my home to go do that. That's work. And I enjoy my physical therapy work. And without being snarky, I make more doing my physical therapy than I would as a coach or an agent. But there are, I believe, people out there that don't want Chris Ford backstage. He's known as not having any issues, not being a fuck up, that, and he can still wrestle. So I will say to the entire wrestling world right now, I have zero interest in being a coach, agent, or anything like that. I just want to wrestle. So if that's the reason why I can't get through to upper management, please give me a break already.
Nice. I'm just saying, in TNA Impact or whatever they're calling it nowadays, a Crowbar versus PCO feud would be off the charts.
People have been talking about it a long time. I would love to, and all I want to do is wrestle. I have zero interest whatsoever in any of that other shit. That's work for me, and I enjoy my work. That's 3 minutes from my house.
Crowbar,
thank you again.
It's been a pleasure having you here, man. You're just
class act.
A mensch.
Thank you, guys.
A mensch.
What'd you say?
You're a mensch. You're a real mensch.
A man among
I know what a mensch is, but I love it. Cool.
A man among men. Chat room's going crazy.
They love
give it up for Crowbar, everybody.
Yeah, just what a guy.
A lot of fun, guys. This has been one of the most fun podcasts. Very laid back. You guys are very likable. I'm sure you guys are going to have super success in the future. This was a lot of fun. Very, very, very cool, guys.
With a little podcast that could.
Yeah.
Pure grassroots, baby. Pure grassroots.
That's it.
That's it.
Thanks a lot,
Hey.
sir. Have a good one now.
And again, nobody at the level that I do. Somebody prove me wrong.
32 years.
33 and a half.
33 and a half.
Oh,
33 and a half.
shit. I was wrong.
Yeah.
I've
I
watched.
was 17 years old, man.
Oh, wow.
I have no
First
We've had a lot of
match.
looks over the years, I will say. That Devon Storm doesn't look anything like. You know what we didn't ask him about? We can't let him go.
Go ahead, let's go.
I'm
I'm going to let him go.
Two more
I
minutes.
have the
2 more
time.
minutes.
Let's do it.
Okay.
The timeless gimmick. You're the timeless one now.
There it is.
The timeless
Yes.
one on the indies. Tony Storm's doing a gimmick on AEW, which is based on All About Eve now and Sunset Boulevard, if you remember that movie from the early 30s or 1940s or whatever it was, which was it escapes me who the actual actress was. I mentioned it to Don several times. A failing, demented, Alzheimer-ridden, a Hollywood actress holed up in her mansion where the parts aren't coming anymore, and she's got one butler that takes care of her, and he's secretly in love with her all these years, and she's the timeless Tony Storm, and that was lifted directly from your internet-based, if I may say that, gimmick. How do you feel about that? I know you feel strongly about this.
I feel strongly about it. I was like, look at this shit. They're ripping him straight off.
Right. I see you there in the black and white with the brandy snifter and the smoking jacket. It's money.
Let me give you the whole story. So the moniker Timeless, believe it or not, came from one James E. Cornette about 2000. And I don't even think he may not even remember it, or if in 2012 or 2014, you guys could check. I did Ring of Honor in Baltimore, and I did a thing with Michael Elgin, and I also did a dark match that night. And I was in the back getting changed, and I had known Jim. Jim has done so much for me in my career. I can never, ever say anything bad about Jim Cornette. I love him to death. He's done so much for me. But I was getting changed in the back, and you walk by, and he looks at me, walks away, takes a double take, and he goes, "Oh, fuck, goddamn, the timeless Devon Storm." And that was way back then. And I took that and I just stored it in the flash drive. And I forgot about it for years. And I during COVID, right before COVID, I had worked for Ring of Honor. I was brought in by Kevin Eck for Final Battle. I worked the December show. I did the free Enterprise show. I worked Eli Isom on the Final Battle TV tapings.
Were you doing? I hate to interrupt you. Were you doing the house shows down at the New Burns Arena in Baltimore?
I did one show at ECW Arena and the free Enterprise pay-per-view that was at Baltimore. I believe that was a facility.
Yes, okay.
And they were using me, my wife, and also the bodyguard.
Oh, okay.
Percival. And then COVID hits. And during COVID, there are shows going on. If you look, you can find shows where fans are wearing masks, they're social distancing, this, that, and the other thing. I'm from New Jersey, where it was recommended that if you went to some kind of crowd gathering event, that you quarantine for 2 weeks. That would have put my business under. That would have totally put my business under. So was an easy decision to make. I have a family. And expenses. So I say, okay, Chris, you can't do wrestling right now. Again, the self-professed world's biggest wrestling fan right here. I have to find some kind of outlet for my pro wrestling thing. So I started playing around on Twitter more, and a whole bunch of these young snot-nosed fans I would see, who are you, boomer? Who are you, boomer? Who are you, boomer? And so I decided I am going to come up with a promo called Boomer, and I put myself in a suit, and that was the whole prototype for this. So if you look back on my timeline, you can find it. It's back there somewhere. It is the first ever promo like this. And one of the guys that responded was Cody Rhodes, which immediately put my views through the roof. My intent was to maybe do one for ha-has and this, that, and the other thing. Cody responds and with a who and a question mark, and views go through the roof. So that encouraged me to do another. And then I do another and another, and it evolves into this timeless thing. And it's black and white with the aged, with the line going through it, like the old footage, the old film footage, drinking wine, speaking eloquently and stuff like that. So not exactly 100% with what Tony Storm is doing, but if you were to ask me, did somebody in management or in creative see this and say, let's take this is kind of cool and give it to Tony Storm? There's no effing way that didn't happen. Come on.
Right.
It totally happened. Now, if I totally had to depend on pro wrestling for my livelihood, would I be pissed? Yes. But it's a fun thing I do. Most people that follow me know I am the original timeless one. The lazy hacks and creative that stole it, no, they stole it.
Nice! Fucking nice!
And at the end of the day, I'm doing well. So if you want to go ahead and take credit for my timeless gimmick, that's fine. But I'm still the original, a timeless one. Have fun with it. You'll never do it quite as good as me. But
cheers to that. Cheers to that. Bottles. That's
man, it's not. Honestly, let's talk real. As a talent, management comes up to you and says, "We have this gimmick, black and white, this, that," and however they present it to her, let's be totally honest. She's fucking killing it at what she's doing.
Day. She's having a good day.
And she's excelling at it. She's doing great. And again, if wrestling was my livelihood, would I be pissed? It's what she's doing is phenomenal. She's totally believable. It's very unique, and they've done wonders with it. But to try to say that there wasn't a Chris Ford crowbar influence there, then you're just kidding yourself.
I agree, sir.
Pal,
I agree.
Pal, you took the high road on this one. You really did.
But it's true. And
God bless you.
And again, it's just a perspective. I'm just a guy having fun down here. And it's kind of flattering to see something that I developed really grow. They added to it. They added different components. Could that have?
I'm glad.
Could that have been me doing something like that? Sure, but what she's doing with it is effing awesome. She's doing great with it.
I'm glad you said that, because what they did was they took your original idea and they've added on to it in the last several months is what they've done. Because it didn't start off here where it is now. It wasn't here then. It was what you were 6 months ago. They said, well, add this, add this, add this. So I just want to tip my hat, sir. It's a hell of a gimmick.
Thank you, man.
I mean, it's a hell of an idea. Mike Digital is one of the guys that's hot as shit about it. So he always gets hot about it. He's like, that.
I appreciate
it. She stole his shit. She stole his shit.
And in all reality, it probably was not her. It was probably somebody in that creative that saw this and said, hey, Tony, can you do this? And she took this and she ran with it, and she's killing it. She's doing great with it. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? Anybody in that situation would do the same thing.
Right. Right.
Well, thank you again.
Well, Crowbar.
Bottles, I got one word.
What's that?
You're going to like our finish, Crowbar. You're going to like the finish.
Okay. Okay.
There is a guy that we all love that if he'd have seen Tony Storm steal your gimmick, he'd have been pissed. You know who I'm talking about, Bottles?
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Until next week, Gordon Soley saying so long from the Sunshine State.